Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our max duplicant run, aka Duplicity. We're towards the end of cycle 111 and have 39 dupes and have one more paused and ready to print. We have a lot going on in the colony and I have no idea what this is going to look like after we print 6 or 7 more dupes. To catch you up from the end of the last episode, well, it's of critical importance that we get this Spomb up and going. We're finishing off some of the pipes that are going to keep the oxygen nice and chill. Other than that, the Spomb itself is pretty much ready to go. Well, I think it is. Who knows what I have forgotten this time. We're also in the middle of analyzing this cool salt slush geyser, aka the brine geyser, and figuring out how much water it's going to give us. Whereas over here at the saltwater geyser, we have finished analyzing it, and it's a monster. Its average output is 3408.7, and since it's a standard salt water, even after we either boil it or send it through a desalinator, we're going to be able to get 93% of that value, which comes out to be 3,170 grams per second of clean water. Granted, it's 95C, but considering a standard Spomb eats 3,378 grams of water when it's producing oxygen for 30 dupes, this one geyser can almost support one additional Spomb. I'm also starting the guts of a nice tank here because I'm going to combine this cool salt slush geyser and the salt water, thereby mixing the minus 10 degree water with the 95C water. That way, the whole area becomes a little bit more maintainable, and the dupes aren't going to get scalded when they're going in there. I'm really hoping this brine geyser is also a monster, but brine geysers typically are not. The reason why is because if this geyser is producing twice as much at 95C, then this geyser is producing at minus 10, well, the temperatures are going to be closer to that 70 degree threshold that we're trying to stay away to make sure the dupes don't get scalded. I'll probably end up eventually putting suits in here anyways, so that way they can go work the desalinator, but we are a little bit further away for that. But with the water right here, and another cold biome, I think this is another opportunity for us to put a Spomb, say, here? I'm not 100% sure, but I'd also like to see what sort of cooling this carbon dioxide geyser could do for us as well. Granted, carbon dioxide's not the best coolant in the world, but every little bit will help. It'd also be a good idea to get over on the next planetoid here soon, and that way we can see what kind of water is sitting over there. But to be honest, I don't know if I have the mental throughput to be able to handle both colonies with us still building and growing this one. I typically like to make sure that the primary colony is at least somewhat settled before we go off in that direction. In the pod we go, and I can't believe I'm about to do this. Well, I don't really want a doctor and a builder. And Travoldo is a rancher tidier, but they're also a loud sleeper. Not a bad pick, but Max starts with 3 interests. Granted, they are a slow learner, so this might be the first time I've ever printed a slow learner. Yeah, they're going to skill level slower, but I think they're going to be a pretty good pick 'em up and set 'em down dupe. Once we print Max, I'm going to show you that just because it says +4 to strength and +4 to strength, they actually do not get the +8. Unfortunate, yes, but it's the interest I care more about. Plus, who's going to turn down to Max in those awesome tidy whities? Welcome to the colony, dupe number 40, Matthew Campbell. Here's Matthew now. We're going to go over to the bio and scroll down, and you can see they start with that strength +4. Not the +8 that the UI would lead you to believe. But it's all good because Matthew's going to be a great pick 'em up and set 'em down dupe, and we'll start them off with their happy hat. Now, there was a concern that somebody told me about that my Bob was afraid of the dark, and we just saw it there. So I'm going to have to make another cot in here. Poor Bob has not been sleeping right this entire time. I'm sure I won't forget about that by the time they finish. Speaking of finishing, we really need to get that Spomb going. Oxygen is starting to plummet just a little bit. We only have one Spomb supplying all the oxygen for the colony, and we're about 10 dupes over on that. Granted, we are getting a lot of surplus. Oh no. Granted, we are getting a lot of surplus from the polluted oxygen coming through. In fact, I'd make it even a little bit better if I opened this up just a smidge. And we might be printing another dupe before we even finish that Spomb. I'm kind of leaving my hands off the controls right now because we have so many things that we need to finish. I mean, we still haven't even finished the natural gas run here. On the good news front, it looks like our first glossy Dracolet egg has been laid. Oh, look at this. I actually remembered Bob's bed. I think what I'm going to do to make this job a little bit easier, not that we have any sort of opportunity for duplicant labor, is create an oxygen diffuser right down here, just temporarily. There's just way too much chlorine, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and this whole dig would take them forever, because every time they think they're done, well, they have to go run away to go breathe. Now, I am getting a lot of regular water drops coming down from this ice biome up here. I'm not too concerned about it because as soon as they're done with all these pipes, I will be sealing this whole thing off, but it seems like that project's going to take a little bit while longer. Part of the problem is it's just so far away from the base, and our athletics is still not great, considering it's only cycle 112. That should help us out a lot, and we still have about 70 tons worth of algae, so I'm not too worried about using it. And obviously, there's still plenty around the map that we have yet to dig out. A lot of slime biomes on this planetoid. It'd also help if we can get this bleach stone swept up, because that's only making more chlorine. And the good news is, with having this oxygen diffuser here and the dupes breathing over here, it means less oxygen's being used from the main part of our base. So hopefully they can start working more on this. And you might be wondering why I'm prioritizing the digging out of this area right now, instead of waiting, considering we have that SPOM. Well, it's because this saltwater geyser is dormant right now. But in 12.5 cycles, it's going to start erupting with 95C, which is only going to make this whole situation worse. And there's no telling, at least at this point in my knowledge, when this cool salt slush geyser is going to start erupting. So getting it dug out now is going to save me a lot of scaldings here in the future. And to be honest, I thought they'd be able to dig this place out a lot quicker. I mean, the path here is pretty easy. They just slide right down the pole and boom, they're there. As a matter of fact, I think the mission today is going to be just digging. It would help with the oxygen flow all around the colony. It'd give me a lot better idea of what else we're working with, as we still have some areas here that are unexplored that may still contain some other geysers. And I'd really like to know how many SPOMs we're going to be able to support on this planetoid alone, because then I'm going to need to start planning on when we're going to be able to start printing dupes out on the other planetoid, because Gergibo also has some water sources, at least one cool salt slush geyser and at least one cool slush geyser. Regardless, I think it is absolutely inevitable that I'm going to have to find some pips and start planting some arbor trees so that I can make an ethanol distillery setup so we can get some of that juicy polluted dirt, because that could be another water-free solution for oxygen, taking all that polluted dirt and throwing it into a sublimation station. Now, we've done that before, at least mass producing oxygen using sublimation stations, but in the past, we've also relied on the fish. Unfortunately, fish are a lot more complicated, or rather not complicated, but the whole infinite fish thing doesn't really work anymore due to the way critters get cramped. So running a massive amount of fish doesn't really make the juice worth the squeeze, especially when it comes in the terms of frames per second, which we're going to have to worry about significantly once we hit around 100 dupes, because the sim's going to start slowing to a crawl. By the way, we're up to almost 500,000 calories. Looking forward to getting that deep freezer in. It might be worth setting up another incubator temporarily to start incubating the glossy Dracos, because the sooner I can get my grubby little hands on some plastic, the sooner we can start making thermal aqua tuners and steam turbine setups, which I know I've been saying for a few episodes, but to tell you the truth, right now it's probably a little too early to do that. We don't have a significant power infrastructure to be able to run multiple thermal aqua tuners, unless I start putting dupes on wheels. And as soon as you start putting dupes on wheels, well, then I'm going to be killing my dupe labor in other sections. We have finished analyzing this cool salt slush geyser, and as predicted, it's not great. 1452.4 turns into 1016 grams per second once you take into account the 70% throwing it through desalinator or boiling it. I mean, even our cool steam vents are better than that. Now, granted, that brine geyser is going to give us a lot of salt, and we'll be able to use it for other things as well. And oh my goodness, it's already time for another dupe. But to put it in perspective, this brine geyser and this brine geyser do not produce as much water as this one saltwater geyser. In fact, the brine geyser doesn't even produce as much water as the cool steam vent. Speaking of which, I can seal that up now before it goes active. The pod from cycle 114 has a Travolta with a small bladder, a narcoleptic Freya, and a mouth-breathing Frankie. Frankie's automatically out. I do kind of like the idea that Freya is a suit-wearing dupe, but I think that Travolta's going to win out for the simple reason they have 3 traits. We could use some more diggers, and they're going to level up a little bit quicker. So welcome to the colony, duplicate number 41, Hans Martin. Hans, I apologize, but the second part of your name was a little bit too long for the name box. But I suppose I can at least put the initial, right? So once again, welcome to duplicate number 41, Hans Martin D. I'm going through here and doing some skill updates, and as you can see, the morale is not great. Granted, they've been working in some austere environments. So for that reason, I think it's time to make at least the Great Halls a little bit better. We do have one Masterworks decorator in Doritos P. In fact, they're our only decorator that has the skill points, which is important because if you start putting in paintings and the like, and you have a bunch of regular decorators and only one Masterworks decorator, you're going to end up with a smattering of different quality artwork. But I think we can go ahead and cap off this entire room with more granite, and the same with this. Are we already at 120 here? Yes, we are. Granted, once we capture this space with all the refrigerators, that'll be a little bit better. So I will go ahead and fill in all of these with some granite. And oh my goodness, we do not have paintings yet. Looks like we got to take a sidetrack for paintings. I know I'm supposed to be working on a SPOM. It's coming, I promise. But the dupes are a little sad right now. And this should happen pretty quickly considering, well, all the dupes are right there anyways. Granted, I'm going to have to do a massive sweep afterwards, but it'll be fine. I'm also going through and upgrading all the priority on our suit docks and mask docks because both mask dock areas have been suffering from a lack of mass, probably due to all the work we were doing down here, which, yes, we are going to continue. Oh, speaking of which, when does this erupt? 19 cycles versus 11 cycles, so that's pretty good. Although this one is active for 82 out of 125. This one's active for 83, so they are pretty lined up. That is good news. It'll help keep the thermals in here down. I also need to concern myself with getting this water sieve charged. We have plenty of polluted water here, but we also have plenty of regular water here. So this is where I start thinking, what's quicker, making a pump here and just running it through here, or just extending this pipe? And I think in the interest of temporary isms, extending this pipe is probably a smidge quicker. So I will run it right through here and do a quick charge of the water sieve and the carbon skimmer, and this thing will start working, well, as soon as we finish off this natural gas generator area. With the sweeps nearing completion, I think we can go ahead and start putting in some wonderful paintings. We have 124 pieces of reed fiber, so this is going to work out well. Now, when you're trying to decide in between landscape canvases and blank canvases, the decision's pretty simple. The landscape canvas gives you a decor of 15 over a radius of 6 tiles, whereas the blank canvas only gives you a decor of 10 over a radius of 6 tiles, and they both cost 400 kilos. The only difference being is the landscape canvas is just one more tech up. Let me also do a nice before on the decor of the mess halls. We are going to be making these out of gold for the simple reason gold gives you the decor bonus of 10%. And of course, I'm going to be making sure that they are even Steven because that looks oh so very nice. Oh, this one even turned out to be perfect for the landscapes. A little bit of good news in the exploration front. We have found another geyser. It is yet another cool steam vent. In fact, this is cool steam vent number 3. It is still filling up its little area, so that'll be good water. And what I mean by that is it's going to keep erupting until it gets up to about this point, until it finally stifles the cool steam vent. I want to see a little bit more over there. Can I dig something like this? We're down to 63 tons of dirt, which is a little problematic considering each mealwood takes 10 kilos per cycle. The grub fruit plants do take 10 kilos worth of sulfur, but I have a lot more mealwoods. So I think I'm going to replace all of these mealwoods with more grub fruit plants. I wish I could remember the math I did on these. Maybe this time I'll write it down. 8 cycles, 2,000 calories worth of grub fruit. Down at the grill, 2,000 calories worth of grub fruit becomes 2,400. 2,400 divided by 8 cycles is 300 calories per cycle. So it takes 3.3 plants to produce enough food for 1 duplicant. We have 10 here, which means this is 3 duplicants worth. And with 15 plants, this will be about 4.5. Granted, once the grubs are going to come out, they're going to give it the grub rub, and they're going to be growing 50% faster. But just in the interest of saving our dirt, I am going to switch these over now. We still have a lot of pockets of sulfur, but unfortunately, we do not have a renewing source of sulfur either on Gurgibo or on Solani. So unless one of these 4 unknown geysers is a sulfur geyser, we aren't going to be running grub fruits for very long. But that's a future echo problem. That pipe was very quick to get ran, and you do not want to overfill this, so I'm going to leave probably, that much water? So once the carbon skimmer turns on, it'll take in that water. Right now you can see it has none, and that should be plenty to get this whole thing started. And here we go, time for another duplicant. I think in this pod's case, we're definitely going to go with one of the loud sleepers, and true to form, it's hard to nay pay. This pay is a cooking, tidying, and suit wearing, so they get the bonus athletics, which is always good in a run like this. Plus, they're quick learning, they're handy. Their only negative is they're a loud sleeper. I think we just found another one of our permanent cooks. And ironically enough, welcome to duplicant number 42, elongated bread. I think with elongated bread, since we are going to have plenty of cooks on the colony, they're going to want to do cooking first, but after that, they're going to be doing some pick 'em up and set 'em down. And just like that, in 1 or 2 more dupes, we are out of cots. I can't wait to get this whole place dug out so we can really design what the future of this base is going to look like. And for this next barracks, we're going to go with the quilt cot, one of my new favorite buildings. I mean, who doesn't like the nice little blankies? And I suppose I can put a low priority sweep on all of these barracks. In fact, why don't I also do a low priority build and get them all to have granite walls? Granite, of course, being much better for decor. But again, I am going to put this on priority 4 because we have more important things to do. We're at 42 dupes and we only have 1 SPOM. These dupes are going to wake up one day and there's not going to be any oxygen. It'd be their fault, of course, because they're not working very fast. And it does look like we're getting a little bit of hydrogen runoff from our SPOM. It must be happening very rarely because as soon as you think it's full, well, it starts draining back down. So I need to use a little bit more hydrogen, which you'd think would be happening the more power we use. But this line is already at 1,855 potential watts. I suppose I can add another couple of refrigerators. And by using more power, it means they'll use more hydrogen. I'm also doing the same with this SPOM up here. The excess hydrogen is going to go up to a pair of hydrogen generators. The first one is going to be connected to this battery. Voila. And I'm tying it in to the top part of this base. Not that the dupes have to run very often on this grid because there's not a lot connected to it, but every little bit will help. Now, to prevent excess hydrogen, just the same way as downstairs, once this whole area fills up, the excess goes to this hydrogen generator that is not connected via automation to the battery. And I think we will have a problem with power usage there as well. But in that case, I think I'll just start powering more incubators. Oh, look at this. We have rotten meal lice over here. And yet I have an electric grill not being used? I guess 90s, 80, 90%. Yeah, I suppose it's time to put in another grill. I'm going to scoot this over, getting rid of the deodorizer, and put in a pair of electric grills. And I just realized we're almost out of mess tables as well. So it looks like I'm going to be adding in yet another mess hall. Let me get rid of this little... Actually, I can just move this over. We have, even though it's not connected right now, we have future plans as soon as this spawn's finished. Okay, Doritos P, enough with the duplicates, will ya? There's plenty of options nowadays. Well, maybe not plenty, but I'm sure eventually we'll unlock some more with the blueprints. Lady Ruff is finishing the touches on our last pipe. It was a lot of pipe to lay down. I have the SPOM temporarily just venting to this area, because as it empties for the first time, that is a lot of polluted oxygen. And I'd rather not get a bunch of polluted oxygen in here, especially considering it's filled with slime lung. Yay! The last thing we have to do is connect it to a water source. Now remember, we did the math earlier in the series that each SPOM takes almost 3,400 grams worth of water. In other words, you can feed 3 SPOMs reliably off of 1 full pipe of water. I say that it's about 98% worth. Either way, we can definitely support 2. So I'm going to come right off of this line right here, since we already have a pump there, and it's going to take a rather odd route. Yeah, something like this, then back up, and then around. Sure, that'll work well. But now that this one little tank is going to be running 2 SPOMs, I need to start supplying it with some water too. Which means it's probably time to stop this nonsense here. So what I'm going to do is disconnect that there. Let these thimble reeds finish off that as soon as I wait for this one little blob of polluted water to go away. Here we go. And now this line, whenever all the toilets and the sinks are full, will overflow into our oxygen system by dumping it right into this tank. I'm also going to need an overflow for it though, because if that tank is too full, well, I don't want to overfill the tank. So we're going to add yet another bridge, except we're not going to do it backwards. It's going to go something like this. That's going to say if this vent can't take in any more water, go right to the main oxygen supply. And to make sure that does get drained, because we don't want the bathroom system to end up backing up, we will bridge this on. So this line does have priority. Something like that. So to recap, water is going to come from this pump, go up to the SPOM, and also down to this SPOM. The bathrooms are going to be prioritized with the clean water, but if they're chocked full, the excess is going to be cleaned and then sent down into the tank. If the tank can't take any more water, it'll bypass this bridge and then be prioritized to head back up to this SPOM over here. Now you might be wondering, well, Echo, all of this water is going to be filled with food poisoning germs. Well, remember how I told you that dupes can't get slime lung by touching it? They can only get it by breathing it? Well, the inverse is true with food poisoning. Food poisoning they can breathe all day long. They just can't touch it. The pod at cycle 120 was fairly simple. Poor Camille has a lot of negatives, whereas Meep and Frankie only have a small bladder, and both have mole hands. Now, I know eventually Meep would get up to the +8 excavation, but I could rather use another good digger now. So I think we're going to take this Frankie. No, who am I kidding? We can't say no to Meep in those cute little undies. Plus, they do have 3 interests compared to just 1. Welcome to the colony, duplicate number 43, Joanne D'Angelo. We are ready to turn this whole system on. You'll notice that I have insulated tiles here at the bottom. The rest of this cold biome is surrounded by abyssallite, other than this little area here, which we are insulating in. So the chill in here should last quite a long time. And I don't have to worry about the oxygen being too cold, because once it does chill back down, from the 50 or 60 degrees it's going to come out of the SPOM with, it then goes through this entire area, which is around 27 degrees. Eventually it could pull this area down, but the only reason we're worried about temp is because of our crops, and I think we'll have plenty of thermals to keep them going. And I just noticed that both of our grubs are done. This is good news. So we finally have discovered those. We were going to say a max, what did we say, 3? Which means this little guy can go away. And if I'm going to be growing grubs in both ranches, I should probably prioritize putting the grub fruits up here because they can get the grub rubs. So I'm going to put the 15 in here as well. But over to our SPOM, all I need to do now is, well, turn it on with power. And that's not going to be too bad. So I suppose all I really have to do is something like that. That'll charge this battery as well, and this whole system will fire on. Now, no doubt, to start off with, I am going to make sure this thing never pumps by saying if it's above something stupid, like 20 kilos. But once we have a lot of hydrogen up here, because it will rise to the top, then I'll turn it on. We'll probably still get some damage to the hydrogen generators, but I think that system's going to be a lot easier than setting up a gas reservoir and all that, which would end up cleaning out the SPOM a little bit more efficiently at least in terms of damage, but definitely not as efficient in terms of time. Could somebody please tell me what Slurms is doing? Are they sucking their thumb while they're on the grill? This is an odd animation. It looks like they were drinking water. We only have 43 dupes. We shouldn't be running into those type of issues yet. Oh yeah, look at all this disgusting polluted oxygen. This is gonna take a little while because it was actually even overpressured in here. 4.2 kilos. I mean, how many episodes have I been working on this SPOM? Who's on permitted food? JM Mort, hurry up. Oh, it looks like nothing was being cooked after all. This is about gonna have to do it. We're getting some polluted oxygen trapped up here. Who's suffocating? Hans? Be careful, Hans. So I am going to end up turning this on. Like I said before, we will get some damage, but in the end, it will be worth it. And I'll leave this connected for another few minutes until the hydrogen starts coming in pure. Cycle 123, and I'm going to do something a little odd. I'm actually going to take this Lindsay, who is a pure decorator, who's also a quick learner. Their only negative is that they're squeamish. I figured Doritos P could use a little bit of help decorating the colony. Welcome to duplicant number 44, Josh Manchester. And I'm trying desperately to make sure we have nothing but clean oxygen before I let all that polluted oxygen out. Although it looks like it will take a little bit of time. If I had just one piece of plastic, I could put in a high pressure gas vent, but I don't think that's worth it. Like I said, we are getting a little bit of damage up here. Are we starting to come out pure? Almost. Not too shabby. Ah, look at this. This is looking nice. So what I can do, I could just deconstruct all these pipes, and with it, all the polluted oxygen would go, or I could just deal with what little polluted oxygen is in here. The duplicants will eventually end up breathing it, right? So for this first pipe, I think it's going to come in and start helping out with the top side of this base. The middle pipe is going to do the same, but for the middle top, in fact, I'm going to sandwich that there. And now this pipe will only be using these suits and a couple of vents. Second verse, same as the first. This one's going to do that. And then the old pipe will end up sandwiching off there. And then I'm going to separate the middle part of the base here. And that's where this middle pipe's going to go. And now this last pipe is going to go all the way over to the other side of the base and start helping out over here. And I'll separate it right there. Notice that the O2 is coming out of the SPOM, even though the SPOM has still just been built at 46. But by the time it gets done going through this entire cold biome, it's coming back out at minus 21, only then to be equalized by this run here. But it looks like the pipes are now clean with hydrogen, so I can do this. We'll get a little bit more damage in here because, of course, there's carbon dioxide stuck in that bridge pipe. But once we repair it, I can then seal up the rest of the SPOM. Well, that's 2 SPOMs in, 16 more duplicants to go, and I'll need to have that third SPOM going. And so for the first time in the colony, I don't have much to do right now, so commence with some digging. Oh, how is this working? Why aren't you running yet? What did I do wrong? Oh, our Atmos sensors weren't turned on yet. Let me turn that to let's say 100 grams, just to have some sort of gas in there. That way the pump doesn't overheat. I'm going to see how much heat this thing causes, and I'll probably end up automating it relatively soon, but adding to our nice giant polluted water pool seems like a good idea. By the way, quick update on the decor. It's looking a lot better, and our skills and morale points look a lot better for it. Now that duplicants are spending a little bit of time in here, the positive decor in these rooms are actually helping offset all the negative decor in and around the base. So they're actually getting an opportunity to get a positive morale impact. These vents can now go away, easy peasy. It can also get rid of these deodorizers. In this natural gas geyser, I noticed there was some chlorine left in here, so I am going to allow it to completely vacuum out the whole room. This one is pure natural gas, not a big deal. So once again, we'll end up doing a couple of repairs on the natural gas generators. The natural gas generators are running like a charm. Well, not so much because I messed up the outtake. I figured the carbon dioxide, since it's only outputting so much, that it would just combine with the carbon dioxide needed to come out of these 2 natural gas generators, but that's not the way it works. I figured sedimentary rock is probably better down here. There's a lot more of it. Here we go. But once we get that fixed, it's going to keep providing power all the way over here to our water sieve and our carbon skimmer that are working just perfect. Notice that we did use the right amount of water so the carbon skimmer can continuously run. We're also going to be getting a little bit of polluted dirt from here. That is still being fed to this sublimation station. I've also set up a little spot in here because I want to dig down into this biome and see where it leads. The edge of the map is right here, and we know this is all oil biome, which is probably only going to have oil vents and geysers, although there is a possibility for more water down there too. But we're going to need to be in suits down there because it's pretty hot. So for now, I just want to do as much reconnaissance as we can. And one easy way to do that is just to drill down into this biome and clear it out. I also need to pick up all that water. I will do something like that, which will allow the water to flow, allow me to mop it up. Progress is being made. It doesn't feel like it at times, but we are up to 44 dupes and have plenty of calories. Don't worry about the suffocation messages. They're going to be fine. It's because I was trying to dig down in here like this, but it's a little too far for our slow dupes without suits to be going through all this carbon dioxide. We did learn a little bit though. Like we're going to have plenty of diamond and ooh la la, what are you? This pod was rather unexciting. We have a Turner who's anemic. That's just a death sentence. And then a Frankie who's only squeamish. Unfortunately, their only trait is research. It looks like they'd make a great vet though. Welcome to duplicant number 45, Diox. I'm going to throw caution to the wind a little bit and get rid of 15 more planter boxes. That's enough food for 3 duplicants, but we're already up to 570,000 calories, and I'm still seeing some rot piles somewhere, so until we get that deep freezer, I want to keep calories as close as possible. Our natural gas generators are already up to 50 degrees, and, well, I think I am going to end up automating them. I'll put it down on a 9060, add some wonderful automation wire, and until I get that industrial sauna built, we'll only end up using them as needed. The comments have been asking me to finally get into this room because it seems like there is a neural vacillator. I have built the ladders here finally in the midst of all of our digging, which is going quite well. So I suppose we will throw a duplicant into the neural vacillator. All we have to do is submit the bioscan. And I'm going to make a deal with the dupes. The first dupe that puts their hand on the door to unlock it is going to be the one that gets the neural vacillator. And it looks like it is Josh Manchester for the win. Way to go. Why don't you come right over here, Josh? We're also going to get some free data banks out of the deal. Let's find out what kind of bonus you're going to end up with. Mental note to editing echo. That seems like it's going to be really loud in the video, so I'll have to make sure I lower that one. Josh has end up with sunny disposition. The duplicant has an unwaveringly positive outlook on life. Stress, minus 20%. Can I get in the neural vacillator? This will also be, in the very far future, one way that we can keep trying to lower the oxygen requirement in the colony. Every time we get an artifact and analyze it, we'll get a neural vacillator recharge and send more and more dupes through it in the hopes that they can get some diver's lungs. The last part of the episode made it sort of easy on me because 2 of the dupes are trypophobic, which doesn't mean that they're bad at digging, it means they can't do it, which can really get some duplicants in trouble. So we're going to take this Liam here as another farmer rancher. Welcome to the colony, duplicant number 46, Snacky. In the course of all of our digging, I am starting to go through these sort of biomes here, and I'm going to be sieving all of the water and dumping it directly into our water supply. That will take a little action like that. In fact, let me flip that around just like that. Now, it will take a little while, but we're not really in a lot of hurry for this water here. But I do think I want it to be in the main tank. So I'm going to bypass that. In fact, it's probably better if I just bridge it here. And then I'll just join it up there. We have plenty of available power. Yeah, the potential load is kind of high, but we're not using a lot of it. So this sort of just makes sense. And then I'll gut this whole biome so that way I don't have to worry about any of the slime, which is the same thing I'm going to be doing over here. Because eventually this entire planetoid is going to look like a machine and there will be no natural tiles left. It's just sort of the way this playthrough is going to have to go because we're going to need all the space and all the materials. The key is just doing it a little bit systematically so we don't hurt the duplicants. I swear I just ended up cleaning up all this water and now of course we have regular clean water in here again. I think I'm done messing with it. You couldn't have came from here because there was nothing there. It must have been like one tile's worth of water somewhere in here. I don't think we need these naturally planted thimbleweeds anymore. Now I will grant you this is on 3x speed, but look at all these wonderful duplicants just churning through a project. You gotta love the teamwork. With this biome done in pretty short order, we've got more visibility down here and it does not look like we found another vent or geyser. Not a big deal, although there is another point of interest down there. So yeah, we still have quite a bit of digging and exploration to go. Our star map says there's only 3 left, because somewhere the duplicants have found an infectious polluted oxygen vent. So that's what I'm guessing this is here. Not a whole lot of major projects today, but a lot of progress nonetheless. I hope all of you are enjoying this series and are looking forward to more. Let me know in the comments below what you are most looking forward to. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, I'll talk to you soon.